Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And so Humza Yousaf has been voted leader of the SNP. There's a small matter of a vote today to see if he will become the First Minister. Of course, he probably will. The Labour leader and the Tory leader will put their names in the hat, but I don't think they've got the votes. And so Humza Yousaf will emerge again today as the First Minister of Scotland. But he's hardly Robert the Bruce. He can hardly be said to maintain that lead and have the whole of Scotland at his back, ready to fight the good fight. He can barely muster 37% of the votes from his own party. So what gives him the mandate to rule the 6 million people in Scotland? There is a massive democratic deficit. Now, will he go to the people? Will he call an election, a whole new Scottish parliamentary election, to show that he does have the mandate from the people? Well, no, of course he won't. Sturgeon will have been on the phone today telling him exactly what to do, because make no bones about it, he may be First Minister, but he's not in charge. He is a glove puppet, and Sturgeon will be sitting there with her hand up his backside for the next few years. But we'll see where he goes wrong. But he has called, of course, for new elections at Westminster every time there's a vote, because it wasn't an overwhelming victory. He called for a new referendum because the last one was so close. Well, actually, his vote to become First Minister was even closer. So perhaps there should be a second vote on that, but without Ash Regan this time. It was undoubted, 90% or something like that of people who voted for Ash Regan put Kate Forbes down as their second choice. And I think as it went on, so many people had previously already voted and they couldn't change their minds despite all this stuff coming out. So I think if there was another election, to use his terminology, people would have changed their minds, and he may well not win the next one. But he's not likely to win anything else. He is a serial failure. We're going to have a look now to see what problems he's going to have from day one, and why is he going to fail. And indeed, how soon? I'm reckoning lunchtime. But anyway, here goes. So Humza Yousaf will be confirmed as the Scottish First Minister today, after the gaff machine barely scraped home in SNP leadership battle, despite backing from entire party establishment. They worked so hard to make this guy the next leader. And it was funny how there was 20,000 votes that weren't cast, or were they? And there's going to be massive questions over the fact that so many votes were not cast, or possibly were, and then they were decided that those votes were for what we call the wrong person. They may well have been, eradicated, erased. There's a lot of questions going over it. Humza Yousaf will be confirmed as Scotland's new First Minister today after scraping home in the SNP leadership battle. Mr Yousaf will be confirmed in the role by a vote at Holyrood this afternoon, with Nicola Sturgeon formally sending her resignation to the King this morning. But he faces a mammoth task to revive the separatists' ailing fortunes after an extraordinary meltdown over the abortive bid to loosen gender ID rules, and with support for independence well under 50%. Indeed, he is pushing forward, saying the most important things for Scotland right now, is independence and gender recognition. This is how out of touch he is, because the majority of Scots think that independence is not the case at the moment. It is it's something like 60-40 now. Say we don't want independence at all, and now is not the right time to push for it because we've got so many other problems. And massively, 99% of Scots are against the Gender Recognition Act. Why is he pushing it? Well, simply he's pushing it because he wants to keep the Greens on board. That's it. He wants the power. There's no other reason. This guy, this Gender Reform Act, it goes against everything this guy believes in with his religion. So why is he pushing it? And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Well, we all know. But it's a dead duck. So he's going to say he's going to fight Westminster for a referendum. Westminster will not capitulate. He's going to fight Westminster on the Gender Recognition Act. Westminster will not capitulate. And so what's he going to do? Well, straight away, his first two things that he says, he's going to lose and he's going to lose. But this is not new territory for this man. Anyway, Mr Yousaf has already pledged to push on with Ms Sturgeon's agenda on trans rights and demanded an immediate referendum on splitting the UK. something Rishi Sunak has flatly dismissed. It's, he's straight into his stride of losing and then losing and then losing. Allies of Mr. Yousaf, ridiculed by political opponents over his track record as a gaffe machine, indicated he is likely to hand a senior job to his leadership rival, Kate Forbes. If he does, she will be back in finance. She is conservative, socially conservative, and therefore he will not want her doing anything hands-on with the people. So he won't want her in things like sort of home affairs. He won't want her in social affairs or anything like that. But that's like that's like sort of social conservatism is ideal for fiscal or judicial reviews, nothing more than that. So he will keep her on that side of the fence. He won't let her anywhere near sort of mainstream social policy, that's for sure. But anyway, she tore into his record handling the health service during the campaign and has warned that the closer than expected 52-40% result shows that continuity won't cut it. It won't. People have rejected it. The point here we have is that even within the SNP, now he's saying 52% win, but no, if you take the first vote, it was 24,000, something like that. But out of the 50,000 that voted, he actually got that sort of percentage out of the people who voted. But out of the SNP membership, the 72,000 membership, only 37% of the SNP voted for him. And that is a ridiculously small amount, given that they claim, that they want full democracy and full accountability. They're full of it, aren't they? Critics have also pointed out that Mr. Yousaf only just emerged on top, despite having the backing of the entire SNP establishment. And Tories believe, and there are questions about this vote being asked immediately. Apparently, the machines using the software used to do the count has the ability to reject at the push of a button and to change votes within the software. This is absolutely true. So we cannot even guarantee that vote was correct. And who knows who was standing over the technicians handing £10 notes out, going, change that vote, change that vote, change that vote. You can't guarantee it didn't happen. Anyway, Tories believe that Mr. Yousaf's triumph will help secure the union. He will, because he is so divisive that nobody in Scotland, outside of the 37% who voted for him, will ever agree with anything he says, because they all know how much of a failure he is. Miss Forbes would have been a more dangerous opponent, they believe. However, it could also be a major opportunity for Labour, which is eyeing picking up a dozen seats north of the border at a general election. It will be fantastic for Labour. Labour know that every time that man opens his mouth, it's more votes for Labour. And they're going to be coming from the SNP. The 37-year-old will become the youngest First Minister and the first from an ethnic minority. Douglas Ross of the Scottish Conservatives, Anwar Savar of the Scottish Labour and Alex Cole-Hamilton of the Scottish Lib Dems are also expected to put their names forward. They will not win. The only way really you could do that is if there was an agreement by all the other parties that they would, let's just say Anwar Savar put him up, and even the Tories voted for him and the Lib Dems voted for him, just to cut it close. That would be the only way, I think, that you could have that, where he would be the leader of the SNP but not the First Minister, and I think that would scupper everything, and I think it'd be fun. But anyway, they will be asked to speak by Alison Johnson, the presiding officer of the Scottish Parliament, with a separate vote for each, but as they lack the numbers, they are set to fail. Mr. Yousaf has the backing of the Scottish Greens, who have reiterated their commitment to the Butte House Agreement, a power-sharing deal which gives the SNP an overall majority. But they've only done that because it's not Kate Forbes. Had she won, they'd have walked. And the only reason they're still in there is because he is guaranteeing that he's pushing the gender reform bill, and he's going to carry on with the already failed bottle deposit scheme. It's already failed. There's no two ways about that. Every business in Scotland is saying that they're either not going to sign up for it, or that they're going to ensure that their supplies come in via different routes. It's going to destroy a lot of industry in Scotland. A lot, sort of the transport, the distribution industries, the bottling plants, Iron Brew, for example. They're going to suffer, as well as the harder stuff, the beers and the spirits. So, Scotland is on for a hiding for nothing because the Greens have got this bee in their bonnet about a failed system that is not just going to fail in Scotland, but it has failed everywhere it's been implemented. The only people who win big are the big bottling plants that exist outside of the areas where these things exist. They make a fortune. But anyway, assuming he wins the vote, Mr Yousaf will be sworn in as First Minister of Scotland at the court session in Edinburgh tomorrow, before facing his first FMQs on Thursday. But an Ipsos poll has underlined the challenges ahead of him, with half of Scots fearing the country is heading in the wrong direction and has been for 13 years. The only good thing is, of late, is that the massive shift away from independence, they've gone from being very close to it all the way down to about 40% now. The people are so sickened by what the SNP are doing and their way of them doing it. I tell you who'll be a big winner, undoubtedly, will be Alba. I think Salmon will pick up a lot of support because he's representing an independence movement that is not the SNP. And there's a lot of people in the SNP who we would call normies. They aren't the rabid, foaming at the mouth independents that tend to join the SNP, but they are sort of, say, sensible Scots who just want independence. And they, I think, will leave the SNP now and join Alba. And I think Alba will gain quite a few supporters. They may even take a few seats off the SNP. And it'd be good to see the SNP's power base reduced. So actually, it's very weird to say it, but I wish Alex Salmon well, because he will split that power base and reduce the evil machinations of the SNP and the damage that they've done to Scotland over the last sort of 15 years. Anyway, across all policy areas, from the NHS to managing the economy, Moore felt the Scottish Government had done a bad job than a good one. Well, that's not surprising, because it really has done a very bad job. Election guru Sir John Curtis said, Labour now has an opportunity to win at least 10 Scottish seats in a general election. Sir John, who's Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde, told Talk TV, I think the Labour Party will certainly feel they have an opportunity, and they are quite right to feel that way. They're now running about 30% in Scotland. That leaves them only 10 points behind. I think it means the SNP. The reason why that matters is that at that kind of lead, the Labour Party begins to pick up seats from the SNP, and there are about 10 seats in Scotland, which may fall to Labour if the SNP lead across Scotland as a whole is down to 10 points. He added the Labour Party is the one unionist party that has some ability to appeal to some people who are in favour of independence but are not necessarily going to vote for the SNP. Them and Alba, as I say. The crucial question is whether the Labour Party can increase that constituency. Well, it's done a damn good job lately. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like the Labour Party at all. But as they are pushing inroads into the SNP territory and weakening the SNP, that can only be good for everyone. You're going to get that share of power, which means you're going to lose the extremism on both sides. So it is a way of sort of self-regulating the abuse of power that happens when you have a very strong party like the SNP that has virtually overall support. Although, of course, it's still having to introduce these ridiculous, backward, stupid rules, stupid laws because of the Greens. But, what can you do? You can't help the Greens. They can't help themselves. But Neil Gray, the Scottish Culture Minister and the MSP for Airdrie and Shotts, told Times Radio there are conversations to be had about government going forward and the makeup and the structure of those that are involved in government. I'll leave it to Humza to have those conversations over the coming days, he says. He added, in terms of what Humza will do differently, he's already said that he will be his own man and he will have his own leadership style. Well, that's a lie. Humza's already said he's going to have Nicola on speed dial. He will be talking to her 4, 5, 6 times a day, and she will be instructing him what to do. There's never in a million years is he going to be his own man. He cannot possibly be his own man, because if he was allowed to be his own man, the country would fail within hours. Anyway, Mr Gray also confirmed that Mr Yousaf will continue to challenge the UK's block on the SNP gender reforms. So he's already saying that he's going to waste millions of pounds on court cases and legal advice on a case he cannot win, just simply to keep the Greens on board. Millions of pounds that could be spent in the NHS, in social care, in places where it actually matters, not in pandering to a tiny, tiny minority of mentally ill men. But of course he's going to listen to the legal advice, says Neil Gray. He has to do that. But there is an important principle at stake, which is about the democracy and the democratic mandate given to the Scottish Parliament that must be defended. So, okay, he's going to listen to the legal advice. The legal advice will say, no, don't do it, you can't possibly win. And he's going to go, yes, but I'm going to do it out of principle. He's going to wank away millions of pounds that could change people's lives on a court case that won't result in the result that he wants. The man is a fucking moron. And he's dangerous. He's wasting money that could be better spent in communities or on people who need it. You're going to have disabled people, elderly people, children with social care problems. No. There's millions of pounds that could help. No. We'll just give it to lawyers because they need it. Because I need to look important with the Greens to maintain power. That's what he's doing. That's why he deserves nothing. And that is why he needs to leave Parliament. He needs to be voted out. And we need an election in Scotland to get rid of this complete and utter wanker. And there's no other explanation for him. A two-thirds majority passed the gender recognition bill in the Scottish Parliament. Well, if they're so confident, let's put that to a referendum. Let's see what the people of Scotland think. He said MSPs from every single political party supported it. That's bullshit. The Conservatives didn't. So it's right now that hums at Yousaf for the first time that Section 35 of the Scotland Act has been used, tests that and challenges it because democracy is at stake. Yeah, the MSP. Okay, if you think you've got political will on this, go to a referendum. Ask the people of Scotland if they think that this should be a good idea. I guarantee the answer will be 99% resounding no. You know it. And you're only doing it, like I say, because of the Greens. And the Labour are only doing it because they've talked themselves so far up a blind alley with their inclusion manifesto that they dare not be seen to do it. But actually, no. Not, certainly half your electorate say no. That half own vaginas. And they say no. And of all the men out there, most of them will say no because they have wives, daughters, mothers, sisters. They don't want them put in any kind of danger or in any kind of situation where they will feel embarrassed or, humiliated. So it's a resounding no from the people, and yet you're still pushing it. Well, let's see if you've got the balls to put that to a referendum. He says we must defend Scottish democracy and devolution. Otherwise, what is the point? He said he will look to utilise the talent across the party in a big tent approach. That big tent is a fucking circus. And they are all the clowns. And there is no talent in the SNP. Let's face it. The only talent they had resigned. And she wasn't even very good, but she was a commensurate politician. But now they don't have her. There is nobody in the SNP that can do anything because they're all talentless, stupid morons. And they think that wasting millions on court cases they can't win is beneficial for Scotland. I think the people who need help in Scotland would disagree. Anyway, I'm going to round off and come up. Bumbler Yousaf will be installed today as the First Minister, and we must make sure he gets away with nothing. The man will lurch from crisis to crisis. It will be a car crash decision here. He said it will be an absolutely major diplomatic incident somewhere else. He will say the wrong thing to the wrong person on regular occasions. He will retract. He will correct. And none of it will be his fault. It will always be Westminster, the English or the white people of Scotland. He's already said that there's too many white people in Scotland and there's too many white people in power in Scotland. He's already played that card. We know he will continue to play that card as he pushes his mad agendas. And don't think it's going to get any better now that he actually has got control, because of course he hasn't. It's all Nicola Sturgeon. He is merely the one that's the puppet on her strings. She is calling the tune. He is singing the song. But, of course, it won't get any better. It's going to get a damn sight worse. And that's why we are going to watch him. We're going to keep an eye on everything. We are not going to let him off the hook for anything. And it is his fault. He cannot blame anyone else. He's the one in charge. Anyway, I shall finish there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see here on the channel, do please hit that subscribe button right now. Ring the bell for notification of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, God help us everyone, and goodbye.